This is Fitness Blender's Total Body Bar Workout. In this routine, we're going to be going through just one round of 8 different bar exercises. You're going to need a chair, countertop, or a ballet bar to do this routine, and we're not including a warm-up or a cool-down, so you'll want to make sure you add both of those in. Now go ahead and pause it here and do your warm-up, or if you've already got it done, let's go ahead and get started with our first exercise, the single leg deadlift sweeps. Let's go ahead and get ready. And start it up. Start on that left leg, tipping straight forward for that deadlift motion, a single leg deadlift. Keep it a nice straight line through your torso all the way down to that leg, then slowly come right back up, switch over the other leg, and tip down. Now as soon as you drop down, you're going to pause it for a second, let those hands slide off the back of that chair, that bar, swing those arms back towards your torso, get a little bit of a stretch on that arm, and then slowly bring it back in front, barely touching that bar, barely touching that chair, then slowly come back up from that deadlift before you switch legs and do it again. Now the motion on this one needs to be really nice and slow and under control, especially because you're doing a single leg deadlift. As soon as you let go with those hands, you're going to want to tip over. So take your time, nice slow controlled motions. The slower you go, the better it's going to be for balance. Also, the slower you go, the harder those muscles are going to have to work to do that entire range of motion. Now though, your calf, your hamstring, your quadricep, and that glute's going to really have to do quite a lot of work for this motion. The rest of your body is not going to have to do a whole lot. So make sure you're really focusing on keeping those core muscles really nice and tight to get as much calorie burn out of those as you can. Check the chest, your upper back, those shoulders. Make sure your arms are nice and rigid. You don't want them completely loose. You want to keep those muscles nice and solid, contracting those shoulder joints, those elbow joints, making sure everything's nice and solid through that arm as you do that nice, slow, controlled sweeping motion. Now, if you keep all those muscles in your body nice and solid and you really focus on a nice, slow, controlled motion, you're going to burn a lot more calories for this. So just take your time. Really contract all those muscles. Just keep running through that checklist in your mind. All those muscles through your leg, your core, your upper back, your chest, those arms, everything needs to be nice and solid. We are almost done with this routine. After this one, we only have one more repetition on each side. So take your time, nice, slow, controlled motion. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Slowly sweep those arms back and forward again. Slowly come back out from that deadlift. This is your last one. Slowly tip over. Arms slowly come back. Back forward. And stand back up. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next exercise, the side leg raises with an extension. We're just doing 10 repetitions on each side for this one. Let's go ahead and get ready. And start them up. Go ahead and bring that left leg up and out to the side as high as you possibly can. Extend that leg out to a full extension. Then nice and slow bend that knee and drop it back down. You want to make sure you're trying to get your thigh up to at least parallel to the ground, but at the same time, you want to try to keep those hips as stationary as possible. You don't want to try to open those hips up too much. You want to try to really focus on getting as much range of motion just on that hip socket as possible, as opposed to tipping your hips and using those obliques to get that leg up a little bit higher. So really take your time, nice, slow, controlled motion, but again, the goal is to try to get that leg up there really nice and high so that thigh is parallel to the ground. And we just got 2 more repetitions, nice, slow, controlled motions. Raise that leg out there, extend it, full extension, slowly back in and back down. 1 more. And let it relax. All right, let's go and switch over the other leg. Same thing on the opposite side. Bring that right leg out to the side, extend that leg to a full extension. Slowly tuck that heel back in and bring that knee back down. Just keep that motion going nice and slow under control. Try not to lean over too much. You want to try to get as much of this range of motion off of that hip socket as possible, rather than actually tilting those hips to get that leg up there. So just take your time, nice, slow, full, controlled motions. Now with this exercise, along with all the other bar exercises where you're using a chair, a countertop, or a ballet bar for support, you want to make sure you're using it as little as possible. Now it's there to help you keep your balance, but you want to make sure that you're just barely touching it. You're using it as little as possible. You don't want to really rely on having it there. Your overall goal should be getting to the point where you don't even need to touch that bar, that chair, to do these exercises. That's your last repetition right there. Go ahead and let it relax. We're going to move on to the next exercise, which is going to be 3 45 leg lifts plus 1 side leg raise, and then switch to the other side. Let's go ahead and get ready. And start up, starting with that left leg, and bring that leg back to a 45-degree angle, 3 pulses, then out to the side, nice wide leg raise, switch to the right, same thing, nice wide leg raise, and then switch it back. Really try to focus on getting a nice tight squeeze on that butt as you do that rear 45-degree angle leg raise, and then again doing that nice wide side leg raise, trying to get that thigh up to parallel to the ground or higher if you can. Then nice and slow, switch it over to the other side, do the same motion. You want to really focus on trying to barely touch that back of that chair or that bar, because this one is actually going to be really working on changing your overall stability as far as your center of gravity goes. So by lifting that leg back behind you, you change your center of gravity forward slightly. Then by lifting it out to the side, you change it back to the center, but off center to the right just a little bit. So it's really dynamic as far as how that balance works. So if you're doing this exercise without really heavily relying on that chair, that bar, then you're going to be really taxing all those small controlling muscle groups through those legs and even up into that core. Now once you get comfortable with this motion, you're just going through it, nice slow controlled motions, you're able to control everything really well, that balance is really good. Start mentally running through that checklist of all those other muscle groups to make sure you're getting more of a calorie burn. So keep those abdominal muscles nice and tensed, keep those chest muscles, upper back muscles, shoulder muscles all nice and tense, as well as that bicep and tricep, making sure you're getting all those major muscle groups to your body contracted and nice and solid so you burn as many calories as you possibly can. Now we're almost done. We just have 2 more repetitions on each side. Starting with that left leg, out to the side for that full side leg raise, off to the right, that 45 back, side leg raise. Just 1 more on each side. Rear, 3 repetitions, out to the side once. Last one over onto that right leg, 3 rear, and 1 out to the side. And let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next exercise, the standing side stars. Go ahead and get ready. And start them up. With that left side first, that left hand's going to be just above head height, that left foot's going to be hovering just off the ground. Extend it back behind you, and then back and front, just alternating back and forth. Now there's actually quite a lot going on here, so as you do this motion, everything on your left side, from that shoulder all the way down to that hamstring, is going to be contracting, pulling that left arm and leg back behind you. And then you're going to do the opposite motion, pulling forward, so everything on the front side of your body, from that shoulder down to that knee, is going to be contracting, pulling that arm and leg forward. So just a nice, slow, fluid motion, arching back, and then pulling forward. Try to exaggerate the motion as much as you can, as much as is comfortable, but don't try to hyperextend that back. Don't lean that chest back too much. Nice, slow, controlled motions, getting a nice tight squeeze at the back, nice tight squeeze at the front. It's going to feel almost like you're doing a little bit of a back extension as you lean back, and it's going to be doing a crunch as you lean forward. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side. Do the same thing on the other side. Nice, slow, controlled motion. Swinging that arm back, getting a nice contraction from that shoulder all the way down to the back of that knee, all focusing on the back of that body, and then crunch that arm and leg forward, getting a contraction to the front side of that body, from that right shoulder all the way down to that right hip and knee. Now again, you want to make sure you're trying to exaggerate this motion as much as you can, really arch it back, but try not to hyperextend that back as you lean backwards, and then crunch it forward, bring that shoulder down towards that hip, getting a little bit of a roll forward in those shoulders before you start slowly extending back out again. Just keep the motion slow, keep it under control. We just have a few more to go. And just 2 more repetitions. Last one, stretch it back and front, and let it release. All right, let's go and move on to the next exercise. We'll be laying on your back for this one, the sliding leg raises. Go ahead and get ready. And start them up. Both those legs straight up in the air. You're going to extend one down towards the ground as the other leg tucks in. Then extend both back up straight above your hip, and then reverse direction. So as the other leg goes down, the other knee is going to tuck in. So just keep alternating back and forth with a nice, slow, controlled motion. Imagine yourself drawing a line down the leg that you're dropping to the ground. So for example, if you're dropping that left leg, then that right leg's going to be drawing a line up that left leg, tucking that right knee as close as is comfortable, and then you're going to slowly extend that right leg back out as that left leg comes up, drawing a line back up that leg towards that other foot. Now just alternate that motion every single time, making sure you're getting a nice full range of motion. Try to get that leg all the way down to the ground, barely hovering just above that ground before you bring it right back up. Keep those abdominal muscles nice and tight. Those core muscles, those obliques and lower back need to be tight as well. Making sure you're trying to keep that lower back as flat against that mat or as close to that mat as you can comfortably. And we just have one more on the other side. And that's it. Go ahead and let those legs relax. Let's move on to our next exercise, which is going to be a pulsing tricep push-up. Let's go ahead and get ready. And start them up with those hands directly underneath those shoulders for that tricep push-up motion. You're going to drop down, pulse twice at the bottom, then come right back up again to a full extension. Now you can do this either off your knees or off your toes, whichever one you can control. Make sure you keep those core muscles nice and tight. Keep a straight line from your shoulder all the way down to that knee or down to that ankle, whichever version you're doing. Just make sure that lower back doesn't dip and you don't let those elbows come off of that rib cage. Every single time you drop down, you want those elbows squeezed that rib cage as tight as you can control. Make sure they don't kick out to the side, otherwise it's not going to be a tricep push-up anymore. And this is your last repetition right here. And let it relax. All right, let's go move on to the next exercise, the standing rhomboid pulls. Let's go ahead and get ready. And start it up. So standing nice and straight and tall with a neutral spine. You're going to do a nice big sweeping motion with those arms coming in front of your chest and then squeeze them back behind you nice and tight, working against yourself the entire time, keeping those elbows up really nice and high. Those forearms as parallel to the ground as you can, so trying to get those forearms to point up towards the ceiling or down towards the floor. You want them parallel to the ground as you squeeze them back nice and tight, and then in that nice big sweeping motion, bring those arms back in front of your chest again. Now you're not doing a whole lot of motion with this one, so you want to make sure you're keeping everything contracted really nice and tight to bump up that calorie burn per minute, especially focusing on those legs and those core muscles. We're almost done. And let it relax. All right, let's go move on to our last exercise of this routine, the pulsing push-ups. Now this is going to be a regular push-up, so those hands are going to be out nice and wide. So let's go ahead and get ready. And start up. Again, either on those knees or those toes, drop it down as close to the ground as is comfortable, press it right back up, keeping a nice straight line from your shoulder down to those knees for the half version, or those shoulders down to those toes for the full version, making sure you're getting a double pulse to the very bottom of that range of motion, then getting a full extension coming back up without completely locking that elbow. You want to keep that elbow just a little bit soft to make sure those muscles stay engaged. Now we're almost done. Keep those hips nice and low. Just have 2 more repetitions. Last one, nice short pulse, back up, and let it relax. All right, good job. This workout is complete. You just finished Fitness Blender's Total Body Bar.